Okay. I like to dedicate the Shiur in the memory of my late mother-in-law, passed away on Shabbos, Odocho Bas Moshe, and the Shmosa Sur B'Tzorachayim. I didn't finish. There probably was a few odds and ends. If you want to remind me, I can finish it next week, believe that. But I thought I should start fresh this evening with a new mitzvah. And if you like, you let me know. I'll go back and finish up what I left off. HaMitzvos achas v'shleishim. Here, things, to define these isurim and what they are and how they are is a major challenge. And the Rambam, I must say, is, frankly, he's, some of the things that he says is not the same as other Rishonim in various of one of these ashoras. In fact, in one of them, the Shulchan Aruch doesn't even quote the Rambam and is machzor like other Rishonim. So each one will get involved in what it is and the creativity that the Rambam has over here. HaMitzvos achas v'shleishim hi shehishilnu mikleisem. Now, I just, this is a point which has nothing to do with anything. I'll just read you a little bit, make a point. It's just because of next week's Pasha, and it will be both in Eretz Yisrael and Chutz La'aretz. Let's just read for a little bit, and then I'll explain to you. HaMitzvos achas u'shleishim hi shehishilnu miksoim. Okay? V'otzoloima she'aniya koyach hadimyon b'min min hano, whatever that is to excite the imagination, okay, to awaken it. Ki elu bale hakoyches kulam hamagid mashis chadish koydem eyoyse. We're talking about predicting the future, okay? And the Rambam talks about predicting the future using the creative, imaginary part of man's brain. Shi'aniya koyach hadimyon b'min min hano, to get it kapach kloima lo'oirer es koyach hashora. Maybe because hashora is according to more the intuitive sense. You see, there's a big difference in koyach hadimyon and koyach hashora, I would have said, but okay. But whatever it is, he's using he's gifted in a certain faculty, and he's using this faculty to predict the future. Okay, now he's explaining and how it works. We'll see. That's what's happening over here, okay? So, this is just a point from you think about when they talk about ksamim biyodam, if the purpose or the way that that one predicts the future is by activating his intuitive sense. I'm just not 100% sure how you would interpret Uksam B'Yodam, and I think it might be something you might want to look into. But the truth is, it's not only the Rambam. The Rambam is just very prolific in how he predicts the future. But the Ramban very clearly in Chumash, when he's talking about the various lavim in Pasha Shoftim, in Tom Tia, in Hashem Elokecha, he clearly says, that the Ksam and Nichush are predicting the future. So we have to just understand what it means. Ksam B'Yodim might be something you want to think about when you're going over the center. I don't want to make any comments about it because I have nothing to say. And when I have nothing to say, I don't say anything. Okay, now, here is just, before we get started, someone should ask a question, is it important for the Rambam, who's writing Minyan HaMitzvos, to discuss the mechanics of how one, actually goes about predicting the future? Is the Isa predicting the future? The Isa is the mechanics behind predicting the future? To excite, or to your intuitive, or to activate. Let's say to activate your intuitive sense. That's also part of this. I would have said that Ksomim is predicting the future. So let's see how the Rambam does this. But that's the question which you basically should be on your mind when you're reading this, and he goes through, I'll just go through this very fast. And he goes, he's very prolific, and uses the Rambam to discuss Partei Mitzvahs. He's very prolific to say there are many different ways to activate the intuitive sense or the Koyach HaDimyon, whichever one you like. That he takes his rod, asher biyodai, ba'oretz, hakost kufais, one after the next. He bangs and he bangs and he bangs, and he screams, it's very strange cries. V'yazev machshavtoi, v'yabid l'oretz man och, ad shemotzi nichole neifo. And nichole neifo, lofin, it means that he's close to fainting. Okay. And he says, fact, he saw this approach with Sefer. So it's important geographically to identify where he saw it. Okay, Beseda. Here, I must tell you, I'm not sure what imagination is going on over here, but in both Kisvei Yad, in Ksav Yad Cambridge, which is Bloch, and Ksav Yad Kapach, there's no evidence of this line, okay? Even Tibbet has it, with a different Ksav Yad or whatever it is, I don't know. But that's what he is. That's what's here. Umehem mishash ravonim takim, v'yiriyah me'or v'yarech la'ayin oisom, v'yarech la'ayin oisom v'akach yisapet dvorim. This everyone does. Wherever he went, he saw this. A belt, a leather belt, or and he says, I'm skipping a little bit now. Anyone who does any one of these things, Vizulason, and this is not a exhaustive list, okay? Vizulason, Mima Shiyelech Bidalkon, that will any pu'ula that he does, you see, I would have said once he tries to have, goes back and does this one, it's these and not others. But he said these are just examples. And anything you do to excite or activate your intuitive sense, that is a kaisin. Yiko kaisin, amra yis'aleh. And it doesn't even call the future. Anyone who does any of these tools, he's called a kaisem. Amu yisala lo yimotze b'cho kaisem ksamim. Okay, kaisem ksamim means to do these odd things. Okay. Okay, kaisem ksamim is to do these odd things. Okay. So let's try to understand this, okay? No, I could have imagined, I'm not saying that I accept it. I could imagine Trump telling me that some biyodam, see, when I always learn the Chumash, some biyodam, he has his magic toolbox with him. But after reading this Rambam, I can imagine some biyodam, and they were well versed in a little different ways to excite the imagination, the intuitive sense. I'm just saying, you can begin. In other words, you see, if kaisem is the telling of the future, okay. So ksam biyodam, it sounds very odd, okay. But if the ksamim is the various pu'ulos which you do to activate the imagination or the intuitive sense, so it means that they were professionals. They went to, a doctor goes to medical school. They went to some school, and they got their diploma. That's what I can imagine. But that's not negate us. I'm just trying to tell you. Once the Ram introduced this, you can begin to interpret some beyond them. Because before, when you thought about it, it just didn't make any sense. Look, maybe I'm making a mistake. Maybe I'm alone, but I always saw somebody that had their toolbox, their magic box, their bag of tricks with them. Okay. Now, let's try to read a little bit. And I want to try to explain to you what's going on. Let's read it again. HaMitzvah achas u'shloishim, she's hilnu miksaim. And what is ksaim? Again, before, like he defined ksaim later as doing these pulos, he defines it also at the beginning as doing these pulos to activate. So it's an amazing thing. The kaisem is telling the future, and all these crazy acts to excite the imagination. That's the kaisem. That's the lav. Goitzaloima or kloima lo eires koyach hashara. That's what Kapach does. Or goitzaloima shenia koyach hadimyon b'mimano to activate it. Ki elu bali akoyches kulam. I assume kulam magid mashis chadish koyach v'yosei. Those who have a very gifted imagination or intuitive sense. That's Bali Akoiches Kulam. And he says later, Omnom is Amis Lahem Ma Ze Biyois Koyach Hadimyon Mehem Chazok. Or kapach lefisha kol bala koiches halolu hamagid mashi chadish koil meyoisay omnam yisamis lahem zeh biyois akoich hadimim chazak. It rests on a good foundation of a keen intuitive sense or a vivid imagination. Otherwise, there's no chance. Then he says an amazing thing, which we have to get back to, Bli Neder. The Rambam, even though in Mishnah Torah, and we'll find the other places, says all this stuff is gibberish, sheker, v'chazor, he says that basically, in a majority of times, they're correct, which seems to be, the cause of is that the miut, that's plus made that. That's, I can't say I would say that, but, you say, v'divrei miskayim broib, u'chein yisharu ma sheyigeh. If you're interested in in this intellectual faculty, I'll give you a mokim, but I think it's beyond the scope unless you really want to talk about it. The Ram discusses barichas in the Buchim, Echelik Beis, Perek Lamed Ches. Okay, good to say that. The in here it's also independent of whether you read. You have Ibn Tibbet's reading of Divrei Miskayim B'Roiv or Kapach V'Yare Al Roiv Fia Emes V'Anochim. They hit the bullseye on Roiv times. So, l'chera, when the Ram says in Perigir Aleph, Hilchos Avodah Zarah, which is the Hilchos Chukas HaGoyim, the end, Udvorim Ho'elu Kulon, it goes back at everything. I would have said that. I don't know. Udvorim Ho'elu Kulon, Divrei Sheker B'chozav Hein. Vehein shehitu behen oiv de avodah zarah kadmoinim legoy arotzos kidei sheno achreim. They should go after them. Vehein loyal Yisrael shem chachomim mechukomim limoshech b'havolim ha'elu l'halos halev sheish toeles behen shneim ki l'lachash b'Yaakov v'lekesem b'Yisrael. Venem goy ha'elu at shayosh ha'boinu kleisimim Einu elam in asichlim. Koisman, us, was it? Koisman Yishmo v'ataloikein. Kol aman mitvorim mo'elu u'kiyetze bohen u'machashi b'libo shein emes v'divrei dvar chochmo aval ateiru asroson einu elam in asichlim u'machasri adas. Avobale chochma tmimi adas yedu b'rayis bluay shekol el advom shosna atera einu divrei chochma el tov behevel sheyimshchu behen chasre adas v'notshu kol darkei emes b'glol b'nei zeh or moter g'jeziru hizhiru al elu avolim tom tiem Hashem Elokei. So this is important for later or for next time, a time after, I'm not sure exactly when, the Tomim Tiyeh is not a separate din, but the Torah says not only is there a lav, but there's an asay, and it's going on all of them. Or whatever, I guess, is used to tell the future. Now, just to get an idea of what you might say over here, I'm not sure 100%, okay? The Rambam, and it's important, probably you should read the whole thing. The Rambam Pius HaMishnah, Perek Daled, Al Mishnah Zayin Avodah Zarah. Sheirish Zeh Hatzaba, that's one of the movements of the Avodah Zarah. They were kaim even the time of Avraham Avinu. Sheirish Zeh Hatzaba, Vehema Ami Mashiyotza Avraham Avinu Bichlolom. The kitzah is not only they were extant at the time of Avraham Avinu, but Avraham Avinu was one of them. He was descended from them. That's what it says. Or it means he was part of them. He was part of them, but he left the fold. Maybe that's the better way of reading it. He left the fold. V'cholak, and then the conjugation is much better. V'cholak al deoseim, and nivsalas amasha otza Hashem belibo min achoch. So it's very clear what the Rambam is doing over here is a play on Kloyes Yotzes. And Nasa Shnei Malchim Shnei Malachim. It wasn't on his own intellectual prowess. It was with the help of the Rebbeinu Shalom. Veheim, Veheim Po'amim Ashiyotza Avrom Vinu. Okay, yeah. Vohoyu Megadlim Es HaKoichovim Umiyachasim Lohem Pu'ulois She'enon Lohem. Here's the important part. What did they do? They were Megadel. They gave, they tried to make them great beyond. They gave them certain powers, or they had certain awe from them. Megadlim es hakechovim umiyachasim lohem puloi she'enon lohem, and then they gave them, and they suggested that certain things that happened really stem from them. Okay, even though they didn't. It means they expanded their sphere of powers to include things which April had nothing to do with them, and they said that's to do with them. Veheim asher yistu es gzeres hakechovim. Gzeres hakechovim is astrology, and maybe we'll have not this time. The Rambam has a letter about astrology and compares and contrasts astrology with astronomy. Okay. Veheim asher yistu es gzeres hakechovim. Gzeres hakechovim is this part of this moon of Tzava to give powers to the kechovim. Va'kishuf va'lachashim v'olas haruchnia is sikas hakechovim va'shedim va'kesem v'hanichush l'chol rivi mineim. It means kesem. It means when the person who has this innate ability, intuitive sense, when it's activated to tell the future, they attribute it to Avodah Zarah. Okay? Correct? That's what he's saying. Udriches hamesim v'havim me'elu yonim asher levi atera ha'amitis chova aleim v'koso isam v'heim sheirish avodah zarah v'anfo. This is the source of avodah zarah. It was the stem, the root, the way that they can get the water and grow. He also writes over here in Minyan HaMitzvos later, Veheim, excuse me, ubezeh tohu hamoin ki heim ba'avur sheyitzku lehem ksas oisam hasipurim yachshavu she'ela pulos yoru ma sheyiyeh. V'higia bohem ho'inyan hazeh, that the pulos are the crazy things that he does to activate the imagination, the intuitive sense. They are poyo the asidus. V'higia bohem ho'inyan hazeh atol b'deh atos at shachs kisas ela pulos sibus hayois ma sheyiyeh. Kamo sheyachshavu balei mishpar kechavim. It means that the koyach of this comes from the Kechovim. Okay, that certainly is a toast. So certainly, when you want to read the line in the Rambam at the beginning of Haloch Tezai, okay, vehein shehitu bohen oiv the avodah. What you hitu bohen oiv the avodah? They tried to claim that it's the avodah zarah that's doing this. L'goya kedei l'goya alotzeris. They tried to convince the general public kedei sheyinhu achareim. They should go after them in the avodah zarah. It was a ploy. Okay. Okay. So here, certainly, and that's very clear that the ploy is certainly toes and hevel and toe, 100%. Okay. Now that if that's what the Rambam means, toes and hevel, then it's okay. There's only another line the Rambam I'm not sure about, which I'd like to share with you. Kol hamamim b'dvorim ha'elu u'kiyetz behen u'machashiv b'libo shehein emes. So it's referring to the fact that they refer it to they claim that the source is the avodah zarah. V'dvar chochma aval ateiru asrason eino elo min hasichlim u'machas radas. So he's referring to the ploy, and that's what he means, and that's the toy of a hevel. But he says over here that the thing actually works. Al pi ha'roiv.
Oh,
So that I think is something which I think you should ponder and think about. But I thought it's a very interesting issue to compare this line of v'divrei miskayim in beroiv to that Rambam in the end of Perik Yud Aleph Hilchos Avodah Zarah Halacha Tezai. Okay, next. Now there's a very important thing here. Yeah, let's go on. V'yi Elohem Yisro zeh al zeh. B'zeh ki Yisro mailis ish ishei or anoshim sosem al ksosem. Okay, so each one is gifted in different ways in his intuitive sense or his creative imagination. So therefore, he's better than the other guy in predicting the future. B'chol koyach mikoyches hanefesh. Okay. V'yefshal. Now here's a very strange line, and it's a very important line, and I think it's a key line. V'yefshal ye'echud me'elu balei hakoyches hadimyonos mibilti shi'aseh ma'aseh u'pula achas me'apulos. It's impossible to predict the future without doing a pula to activate this sense. It's a very important line. In Kapach, Kedei Lo'ere boy. No, excuse me. VF Shal. Excuse me. So what does it mean? Or it's hechrechi. Okay. it's echrechi, or it's efshar. It means that the Rambam is using his analytical powers, okay, whatever, I don't know exactly how to say it. The Rambam concludes that Lu Yitzur, people jump around and dance, okay, before they do it. And it helps, okay? But it's possible to tell the future without jumping around and dancing. So then the jumping around, dancing, and not doing anything, see? Okay. However, since it's impossible to use your intuitive sense unless you do these pu'ulos, then you begin to think and suggest that these pu'ulos are not a hechsher, machshir, that help the person to violate the law, the same way that the Rambam has in Shiur, he has that various hechsher of the lechem aponim are not part or not counted, or when you count is the lechem aponim itself. So here the hechsherim are not only, they're not part of Torah Shebiksav. You know, a priori, it's worse than Shorish Hasiri, but that's referring to say it here, it's Balaam. But here he claims that since it's impossible, logically impossible, or in the statistically impossible, to be a kesem without doing a pula to activate the imagination or the intuitive sense. So these pulos are part of the Ma'aseh Avera. And not only part of the Ma'aseh Avera, but they define the Ma'aseh Avera. And therefore the Ram can say, and it's an amazing conclusion that he did. The Ram could say, "V'mitzvos achas u'shloishim, he she'izhilnu miksoim." What's a loima? Shaniach koach hadimyon. What the ksoim is to activate the creative function, or as Kapach says, lo'ira koach hashor. That's what kaisim is. The Ram says, "Oh, that's what it is," and he explains the reason why he said it, because it's impossible to be kaisim without this. There's more to talk about this, but let's try to get the basics down before we move ahead, okay? But that's inclusion VF shot, and so much so. Let's skip a little bit. Let's give you an idea. The Ram at the end of this Hashora makes the following statement. V'oive alav zeh v'yaseh achas me'elu apulos chayiv malchus. So the pula is the Ma'aseh Avera, and if you do these pulos, this Ma'aseh is mechayiv malchus. Kloima mi sheyiyeh kaisem v'yaged l'bnei adam v'poyel sheyifol oisai. This that was Ibn Tibbon. In Kapach, it goes like this: V'oive b'maas is there chayiv malchus. He says like this. V'oive b'maas is there chayiv malchus, kloima hakleisem, umagid ayidei ma'aser she'oiseh. Okay. And this translation, I don't know if you should even change it. This at least makes sense. We know what we're talking about. Before, we had no clue of what happened. Okay? No clue. But the important thing is, let's say, we know the Ram says in Perek Zayin, so the Torah, B'nai Nevi'im Misnabim, the Ram learns Misnabim is trying to be a Navi, trying to have Nevuah. They've reached the level of Ruach HaKodesh, Misnabim. Okay? So here the guy's banging, and he's fainting, and he's doing all the different strange things that you can imagine that they did, okay? But, as they say, Yish appropriate, but he tried, but it didn't work. So the Ram says this person is not Chayiv Malchus. Because he says, look, Kapach says, V'oiva v'maisa zeh Chayiv Malchus, Tloima HaKeisem Umagid Al Yidei Ma'aser She'oiseh. Okay? But the amazing thing is, who's the Kaisem? The guy who bangs. But it's so much so. And look at the beginning of the Rambam again. You define the thing by the guy who bangs or whatever he did in order to activate the person who's actively involved in activating his intuitive sense or his imagination. He's the Kaisem.
Shaul HaMelech wasn't over anything.
Again, what?
Shaul HaMelech.
Shaul was he asked, he didn't do it. We'll see about the asking. The Ram talks about asking. I'm talking about the Kaisim at the moment. I'm not talking about the person who asked. Okay. Say that. He talks about it later. Okay, good. So, but the Kaisim is a very strange thing. The Kaisim, so then you understand some beyond them. The Kaisim is the person who does these crazy things, okay? But it's only Chayiv Malchus only if it works, if he says something. If he doesn't say anything, it's not activated, it's trying to eat the chazer, and it just doesn't happen. But you understand yourself, it's very possible that speaking might not be a ma'aser in order to be b'chayiv, and the pula is in what a priori you would assume is a hechsher. And that's the Mechayiv of the Malchus. Okay? Onwards. It's an amazing thing. Okay. Now, once he's made this point, which is very pivotal for the whole discussion, we understand the beginning now. Because the activating the koyach hadimion is part of the ma'aser. So just an aside, I do the Avera consists of two things, of a pu'ula and speaking, okay? The speaking is not a ma'aser, but the pu'ula is a ma'aser. The Ram says the fact that part of it had a ma'aser is enough to be Chayiv Malchus. Okay. Next. Okay, now, then, as I said, the Ram is very prolific and lists the various ways that the person can activate his imagination or his intuitive sense. Okay, saying, "V'hinei mehem mishyake b'mate, asher b'yodoi ba'oretz akos tkufos, v'yitzak so'okos mishunos, v'yazev machshavtoi, v'yabit la'oretz zman or, ad shimseu kmo inyone chili hanoifer," or as Kapach says, ilofer. It's talking about fainting. He loses consciousness, or he's almost, he was in a trance. I don't know. He's lost chili hanoifer. Me'ein matzav ilofer. Now, so the Rambam has described a person doing nutty things and causing himself to get close to fainting and telling the future. And the Rambam says, what law does he violate? The law of Kesef, correct? The problem is, there's another loisa in the Torah that we've discussed. Loisa setes. Maise yid'eni. And she's hilnu me'aseis maise yid'eni v'hu gam kein min avodah zarah v'hu shikach etzem oif shesamo yadua sheshmo yadua v'yosim oisei befiv v'yashir esher v'yispal tefillah v'yasem ma'asim. He does certain things. Ad sheyischabeloy inyan doime le'inyan chili hanoifer. He's coming close to faint, or he looks like he's fainting. He does all these things, and what does he do? And he tells the future. So, you excuse me, but if you see this over here and you look back at Yid'oni, one should naturally ask the question, what's the scoop? What are the tulabim over here? But you understand yourself, even before you started the questions, the ilofin is only one of the ways of doing it. It seems to be in Yid'oni, that's it. So, okay. So maybe the question is, maybe in this case, it should have been Yid'oni and not the Kesem, okay? But say, I'm not sure. You can decide how you want to can the question, okay? But the question is something to think about. So I would tell you, and even though a priori they're very similar, but I want to suggest that they're completely different. And that Maisi Yid'eni is a type of avodah zarah. If you recall, I just read it again. She's healing Maisi Yid'eni, who gam came min avodah zarah. The Ram doesn't say that the Kesem is a type of avodah zarah. It says only by Yid'eni. So if it's really the same thing, he's describing something completely different. And I would say that is what he's stressing. The Yikach etzem moif sheshmo yadua v'yosem oisem befiv v'yashin eshin, and there's smoke, and there's tfilos. These are things that there's a, you may, it's almost, it sounds, it's very much like, but, it's a process of avodah zarah. But this is not a regular type of avodah zarah, because the eshin and the tfilos over here are not an avodah. If an avodah, you wouldn't need a separate lav. It would be on the loisa of them. It would be dakum b'kach. But it's a derech to mekabel the hashpah of the avodah zarah to magir asidus. So the vehicle, the modus operandi to tell the future is cholok b'etzem yisei dinoi, from yid'eni to kaisem. The kaisem has his own powers, and maybe the avodah zarah is augmenting his powers, but it's basically him. In yid'eni, he's calling on the avodah zarah to give him hashpah in order to do this. It has nothing to do with the koyach hashara. And that's why the Ram calls Yid'oni min avodah zarah, and that's how the Ram quotes Yid'oni in Perek Vav, which is the Perek of Hilchos Avodah Zarah, and he calls if you recall in Pirush Mishnayos, he says that this is the Vehem Shoresh Avodah Zarah, the Anfor. The Kaisem is only a Shoresh Avodah Zarah. It's not min Avodah Zarah. It's because the Hamoin decided that they're going to tribute it to Avodah Zarah. But it's really having the Koyach HaDimyon working. It's not a min Avodah Zarah. Therefore, the Rambam puts it in Perek Yud Aleph for the din of Chukas HaGoyim. This is the way the Goyim behave, but it's not Avodah Zarah. They might have used it to bring to Avodah Zarah, but it's not Avodah Zarah. That's what I would suggest. Now, so here also, he says, "V'yisaper ma'asher zuliyos." He has to tell the future. Otherwise, nothing to talk about. He jump and dance to do all these crazy things. That is not the lav. The lav is to jump and tell the crazy things and tell the future. And only if he tells the future. Okay, next. We mentioned about this line that it's not the Ksav Yad. Then the other line now, Umehem mi shiyashlich avonim dakos dakim biria meo v'yarech la'ayin oisem v'achach yisaper boy v'achach yisaper dvorim. Again, he's telling the future, and that's part of the Avera. Without telling the future, you don't got nothing. וזה ידוע מפורסם בכל מקום שהלכתי. Well, it's a prolific and where he found it, where it is, and what it is, This is an Uvda, the Gemara, where there was an Uvda, they said, it was over here, over there. That was, in order to point out there's clarity in the thing. So I'm not sure, it means in general, when you say something, it's part of the Talmud Torah, that if you know it from there, you have to say, that's what it is. I mean, I'm just like, what does it do with me in HaMitzvos? Next. Mihem, Mishiashlich Ezo, Orich, Ba'oretz, Yistakel Boy, Yisaper. Again, he's telling the future. And that's very important. V'kavona b'zeh kuloi, lo niya, v'kavona b'zeh kuloi niyes koyach ha'mishave boy. And that is part of the Ma'aseh. Min kapach v'amator b'chol eilo le'ores koyach ha'es ha'koyach le'heyedir sheyesh boy. Now, this we have to decide, and I'll let you think about it. We'll try to decide whatever it is. The question is this next segment, is it a parenthetical remark or it's something important for us? He says like this. V'kavona b'zeh kuloi. No, I want this. To excite, to activate. The fact that he's jumping around has nothing to do with telling the future. So what they said is the fact he's jumping around, it's a crazy thing he's doing. It must relate it to the Kechovim, the Avodah Zarah, the Pesach, something like that. And that's really where the Koyach is coming. And that's the Tolls. And that's the Shurish of Avodah Zarah. Ubezeh Torah Amoin, Ba'avur sheyitztagu lahem, Ksas Oisem HaSipurim, Yachshavu, some of, you see, it's very strange. Here he says Ksas. Before he said it's loiv. I'm not sure, whatever. Ba'avur sheyitztaku lohem sas oiser atzipurim yechshavu she'elo apulos yereh al mashiyeh. They themselves, the pulis themselves, are responsible, or are an indication of what's going to happen. V'gia bohem oinyin b'zeh atos. It means that the reason why it's not they're predicting the future, they're causing the future to happen by banging in this way. And the way they bang affects the future. Similarly, the way that they use the astrology, that's the problem. And we'll have to see about that because the Rambam doesn't mention this. You see the next mitzvah, whether he talks about this or not. But the problem is the Hamoin. What is the Rambam trying to tell you? Why the Torah Aseh? What's the choice? It's like Sefer Chinuch. In other words, is this a Maimah Muska parenthetical remark, just telling you that there was a ploy and it was used for that? But it's nothing to do with me in HaMitzvos. Or no, this is the reason why the Torah Aseh it. Or the anfor the Shurish of Avodah Zarah. Okay, that I'd like to leave you, but That l'chera is a question we should ask over here. What's the Ram talking about? What's Villa? What does he want? It's the same type of relationship. Kloima, sheheim min hanos hakoyach lo'ira eisai. He's doing an amazing thing over here. And this will have to, this is really not for now, it's for the next mitzvah. I think he's happening in Sefer. He's saying astrology is using the person's creative sense and intuitive sense, and all the discussion, the stars of this and all this thing is a way to activate his imagination, intuitive sense. Is that what he's saying? Dini or the Mishpatei, all the different Mahalchim in understanding astrology, hey mizeh yachas, it's the same relationship. Kloima sheheim min mehano'o hakoyach lo'eloison. It's to activate the koyach hadimyon or the koyach hashola. Ulchein lo yishtavu shnei bnei adam bi'amitas hasipo v'imishtavu b'yediyah v'imishtavu b'yediyah b'mishpot. Here it's very difficult reading. I have a simple question, okay? If I had been the Rambam and I had made this statement, wouldn't I ask myself, why should Ma'onein and Kaisem be two lavim? It's basically two different, the same way here, here you have a different type of way of activating the koyach hadimyon or the koyach of hashola. We have to see about that. Something we'll have to see about. But I'm thinking the issue is very interesting. V'chol mi she'aseh achas me'el puz zulason mima she'elech b'darkon yiko kaisem. The kaisem is the pool. What he's done, okay, he flips the whole thing. I told you when you bought it, okay, that what's happening over here, these are basically hechsherim, okay? And then the guy tells the future. But the Rambam says, name, crazy means all these crazy things. And that's why I say you can have some biyadam. That's what they're doing. Uksam biyadam. So the kaisim, it's not. This is in the Torah. Kaisim samim. Because the Rambam is explaining what the kaisim samim is. And the chiddush is he's actually telling the future. And how do you know he's telling the future? Because the poet puts a tom tia that he's using to tell the future. It's just the opposite. The whole world is upside down. See, I sold you that, it's a lesson of a hechsher that's in Shiur Yud. But it really is like in Shiur Yud because it's Mefurish B'Torah. Oh, that's what Kaisim is. Okay, Atzloch Rabba, it should be Zichah.